So I was originally going to do a reveal analyze video about Beast Morphers a year ago, and I started working on it and everything, but then I never actually ended up releasing it for no real reason other than it took me so long to make that it kind of lost a bit of relevance by the time I was done with it. Like, Beast Morphers was originally announced and everything, and then I immediately recorded my video and all that other stuff. And then by the time I actually got around to, doing the thumbnail drawing and editing and everything, a week or two had passed because I was really busy, and I was like, well, too late now. So I just kind of ditched it, and I kind of regret that. So we're gonna go back and do a new reveal analyze video. It's gonna be called something different because the reveal has long gone, and we're not even necessarily gonna be talking about the reveal necessarily because we've got a lot of new news. So we've got quite a bit to go through, so let's go. And yes, for once, a positive video for me. I'm not as cynical as everyone thinks I am, I promise. So, Power Rangers Beast Morphers, for anyone who doesn't know, is the next Power Rangers series. It airs on March 2nd. It is the first of the Hasbro era. We're going to get into a bit of what that actually means in a second. It looks really good. So, it's going to air on Nickelodeon's at 8 a.m. in the US, which means something to the US people out there. But of course, because I don't live in the US, that means nothing to me. So, the first thing is which Sentai they're adapting, and that's Go Busters. Which is interesting. Now, of course, this topic was a lot more relevant a year ago when I was originally going to make the video, but the idea that then they've gone back to do a Sentai that they skipped. So, for anyone that really doesn't know and is like, what's a Go Buster? Basically, Japanese show Super Sentai. America takes Super Sentai and make it Power Rangers. And Japan has continued to have one Sentai every single year, no matter what, basically. Whereas, as you've noticed recently, America has been taking 2 years to adapt one Sentai, like with Samurai and Dino Charge and Ninja Steel, and that's not how they do it in Japan. And so, because they wanted to do Dino Charge, they had to skip Go Busters. But Hasbro has decided, no, we're actually going to do Go Busters and we're going to turn it into Beast Morphers, which is super interesting. And I feel like the reason they've done this, there's a few reasons they've done this. I think like the first is to win back fans. A really good and easy way of showing the fans that you actually care, because the problem with the Saban era is it kind of felt like they were a bit out of touch with their fan base. And so Hasbro's first move was to go, oh, you like Go Busters? Okay, let's do that one then. We're going to actually go back and do skipped Sentais. Does that mean they're going to go and do Tokyuja or Zyuohja or something like that next? We'll see. As to what the next Sentai is, I could make an entire video about which Sentai I'd want them to make next, which is why I probably will if I ever get around to it. But the idea that they've gone back to do Go Busters is great, because I feel like that's one that you can do a lot with in terms of adaptation, and I feel like they've already gone an interesting route with it. We'll talk about that in a sec, actually. This is very scrambled. It's almost as if I have to recap an entire year's worth of new news in one video. Another reason they could have done Go Busters is because it's very toy line light. I think that's one of the reasons Bandai and Saban skipped it in favor of Kyoryuja with Dino Charge, because Dino Charge had the Beast batteries, or the Dino Chargers, which were a collectible that people loved in Japan, and they were hoping that would translate over here so more people would buy them. Whereas Go Busters didn't really have a collectible, and Hasbro was like, no, it does. We've made one in the form of, I can't remember what they're called. I'm really bad at research. They're these keys that you put in the morpher in all different colors, and they make different sounds and stuff. It's really cool. And you get, of course, the base ones with the morpher, and you get the extra ones with the action figures, which I love, because Bandai used to sell the collectibles separately on their own. You'd have to like buy this one pack that would come with like free Dino Chargers or free Ninja Steel Stars or whatever. And I bought one of those for Dino Charge, and I was like, this is kind of cool, I guess. But this is a much better way of doing it, because like with Kamen Rider collectibles, I can understand like buying those separately, because those are always like real big, chunky, really nicely made things. American Power Ranger collectibles usually aren't quite as nice. Like the Ranger keys, I totally understand selling those separately, but I don't really think anyone was going out of their way to collect every single Dino Charger, and especially every single Ninja Steel Shuriken or whatever it was called. The idea of selling the collectible alongside an action figure, where you buy an action figure and you just happen to get one of the collectible with it, is amazing, because now we're going to transition into the action figures. These are the basic action figures. These will be replacing the 5-inch figures, and well, they're 6-inch now, which is great. They're more, as an artist, I recognize that they're a lot more realistically proportioned. They look like actual humans. They don't look like whatever the hell wrestlers the originals did. And I remember back when those when like the Dino Charge, Ninja Steel, those kinds of figures were being released, people were like, oh, why are you complaining? Of course they're going to have muscles and stuff, you know, they're Power Rangers, they fight things. And I'm like, that's a really stupid excuse to make, because look at them in the show and look at these giantly muscled figures. These do not look the same. Whereas if you do the same thing with Beast Morphers, and you take a Beast Morphers Ranger and a Beast Morphers figure and you put them next to each other, you're like, oh, these actually do look the same now. What? Or at least as similar as you can get for a $10 figure. Yeah, these new figures only cost $10, or at least they're expected to. And that's insane, because they have more weapons, more accessories, and they come with one of the collectibles, and they're a bigger scale. Like, I feel like there must be some, like, either I'm just so used to Bandai of America fucking us over, but, like, this seems too good to be true. So, what? Don't even get me started on Lightning Line. Again, the Morpher looks great too. The Ninja Steel Morpher was kind of a train wreck, whereas this one looks a lot nicer. Of course, goes without saying, doesn't look as nice as the Sentai version, but they never do. You know, the Morphers aren't the America's strong suit, really. It's usually the figures and stuff, which is why it's such a good thing that the figures look so nice. Not to mention, the Zords look great. I heard some complaining about the Gorilla Zord. I think he looks fine on his own. Like, I mean, he doesn't look great, but are you really going to have him displayed like that anyway? I mean, other people might prefer displaying the individual Zords. I'm always going to have, like, if I'm going to display this thing on a shelf, it's going to be as the entire Megazord. And these things look great because not only do they combine together really well, but they look like they have a lot of articulation and a lot to do with them. They don't just look like the usual, like, rectangle brick that you attach to the side of a different thing. Like, this actually looks like a transforming robot that works really well and has actual articulation. It may be basic articulation, we haven't seen the full extent of said articulation, but it looks like it has it, which is great, because those old Power Ranger Megazords did not, and even the newer Sentai ones don't really either. So the idea that this is going above and beyond in that regard is great. It's to be expected, because this is the people that made Transformers. So yeah, but yeah, no, really cool. And if we look at the other toys, we can see, like, the roleplay toys and stuff, and the power-ups and things that they've already announced. You can see a heavy focus on animals. Now, that makes sense. Beast Morphers and such. Like, for example, we've got this, like, cheetah sword and, like, a cheetah gun and everything. And what's really interesting is these weren't in the Sentai, but not only that, the Sentai wasn't this animal-focused. The Sentai was very much, oh, it's a sci-fi kind of spy show. And then it's also just kind of got some animal set dressing on it too, you know, like all this. But the actual show itself didn't have that much to do with animals and stuff. Again, it was mainly just a stylistic thing to throw on top of the sci-fi things. Whereas this show looks like it's going to be more of an animal series, with the sci-fi stuff being the set dressing. Now, of course, we don't know much because we haven't seen much of the show itself. But I think it's cool that they're actually embracing a different side of the Sentai. You know, I really, really like that. Now, unfortunately, there are still some bad things about the previous Power Ranger series that they still haven't fixed here. But to be fair, these are things that I don't think could have been fixed. So we're still on Nickelodeon for another 3 years, including this year, which is a shame because Nickelodeon has really been holding this franchise back a lot. Nickelodeon has this rule where you can only air around about 20 episodes of any given show per year, and because of that, that's the main reason it's taken us 2 years to adapt one Sentai, with the exception being Megaforce. But do I really need to talk about Megaforce? I don't think I do. And unfortunately, we're still in that trap. It looks like Beast Morphers is going to take 2 years to air and is going to have 20 episodes per series. It's a shame, I know. One cool thing is they are actually starting to air this later on in the year. Like I mentioned, it's airing in March 2nd instead of the usual early January, which means, you know, we usually have like a hiatus halfway through a series, like around about episode 8 or 9, that goes like all the way until September. And then we pick up with like episode 9 or 10. Hopefully we can get rid of that hiatus, because I feel like that's where we've lost a lot of viewers. Like, maybe people will watch the first few episodes as they air and they were like, oh, you know, it's okay. But then when we get several months of hiatus within the first 10 episodes, I feel like people just kind of forget and they're like, whatever. Unless the show's really good. But again, as you've seen for the past few Power Rangers, I mean, Dino Charge was pretty good, but that's about it. If you haven't been able to tell, I've basically, my opinion has 180'd on Ninja Steel ever since I made that first video about it. And so maybe by airing this series later on in the year by a couple months, and maybe pushing up the second half of the series, we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I'm hoping this means they're going to get rid of at least the hiatus within the middle of the first series. Will it happen? We don't know. That's just speculation, but this Nickelodeon contract is a pain in the ass. It's really a thing that's holding us back. And it's fairly obvious that Hasbro aren't a fan of it either, so hopefully they're finding good ways around it. But yeah, that's Power Rangers Beast Morphers. I tried to get through everything as fast as possible, so excuse me if I've missed something. I would talk about the Lightning Line, but there's not much to say other than the Lightning Line looks really good. And it has not much to do with Beast Morphers itself, because whilst Beast Morphers will be a part of the Lightning Line, it doesn't really have much bearing on the show itself, really. But the Lightning Line exists, and those are the good figures aimed at adults, and they look great. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Beast Morphers. I'm keeping myself cautiously optimistic because I've been let down by Power Rangers quite a bit in the past. It's important to note that Beast Morphers isn't fully Hasbro yet, because we don't know the specific details, but Saban did have a lot of input on Beast Morphers still. So we've still got the same writing staff, and we've still got the same kind of structure and everything. Think of it kind of like Wild Force. I think Wild Force was similar to this, where like that was the first series that was airing while Disney bought out Power Rangers. And so whilst Disney did have some input on Wild Force, they didn't have as much as they did with, say, Ninja Storm. And so the next proper Power Ranger series will probably be the first fully Hasbro one, but this is a really great transitional series, and it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of changes Hasbro are planning to make with this one. So again, I don't necessarily expect this to be an amazing series, but if it shows that it's willing to take the correct steps in the right direction, then that's enough for me for now. And it looks like it's going to, because the toys and everything that we've seen so far looks great. So yeah, that's why I'm really looking forward to Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Again, it airs in 2 weeks from now, March 2nd, 8 a.m. US time on Nickelodeon. And it looks great. I really hope it does well. I really hope it's fairly good. Again, I'm not asking for the best series in the world. I just need it to be good, entertaining, fun. I don't necessarily need it to be like the most depth or deep, like character focused, dark. Like, I'm not expecting for RPM 2, which, yeah, that's a thing that people were wanting from Beast Morphers. Doesn't look like we're getting that, but we'll see. But again, I don't even need that. I just need like a fun time, you know, like something similar to Ninja Storm. You know, Ninja Storm isn't exactly like the deepest, darkest, like most complex Power Ranger series in the world, but it's fun. It does what it does well. And if this is just like that, then that'll be good enough for me, you know, especially after the past few years of Neo Saban era. So yeah, that's Power Rangers Beast Morphers.